No TV show had ever been this controversial. All in the Family turned sitcoms into social warfare. The Whole Family turned then came shows that got into social warfare. The episode where Edith Bunker had to deal with unimaginable CBS was scared of the network had to set up private tests for cops and doctors before it played local stations that threatened to because of the ban. All production ceased for almost a month while leaders thought about ending the show. Whole thing when it finally aired, it drew 40 million people watched on TV for all time. Here's the whole story behind that scene where it all began. With a British show and a tense the bond between a dad and his kid. Ronald Lear said he had the idea for All in the Family after reading about a show in Britain called Till Death Us Do. In some ways, it made him think of his own father, who would scream at his mom to stop herself while she called back, "I've never seen a white man so lazy." These words would go on to become famous in American TV history, but in the year 2025 something strange happened. Sally Strs, who played Gloria. On the show, said that Carol O'Connor was the one who I found the British series while he was in the UK. She said he brought the idea to learn on his own, but he was left out after getting credit. She kept the story. She kept to herself for decades until Lear died before telling anyone about it. That made everyone think differently. They knew how the show started. There were bumps on the way to TV. The first version of the talk show Justice for All was made for ABC in late 1968. Archie Justice Jean was played by Carol O'Connor. Cobb played his wife Edith, but ABC around the same time they changed their minds had just called off a crazy and offensive. The sketch show Turn On was cancelled after only one season episode, and it scared them off too. Dangerous, and Lear's pilot didn't have a chance. There was still a chance that the idea would work. BC asked for a second chance to learn quickly. Sent a second version, which is now called Back Then, and they filmed it on Ockanor and Stapleton on February 16, 1969. Came back, but Gloria and her husband were now played by different people. Even back then still, ABC left, and Lear shopped it. Look around, and for a moment it looked like it could turn into a movie instead of a TV show. CBS stepped in at the end of the CBS used to get a lot of viewers, but had trouble with most of their hits. There were the Beverly Hillbillies and Green Acres. Were watched by older people in the country. That was something marketers didn't want. Younger people from cities who have money to spend. In 1971, CBS began cutting their country shows. A Green Acres cast member joked that they could make anything out of a tree. That's when everyone in the family got. CBS had tried to buy the shot once. Americans have the right to live until they die. To make one for Jackie Gleason, but Lear had done it before them. Gleon, Tom, Jack Warden and Bosley were all thought about to play the lead. Mickey Rooney even got the part before anyone else. Mouse Rooney turned it down, though. "I thought the show would make Norman laugh." "Killed," he told him. "They're going to, I'll shoot you in the street," Rooney said. The person wasn't American, and that it would blow up in Lear's face. Carol O'Connor didn't instead land the thing that would always define him. Ockanor wasn't Lee's first choice, but he had the part once he got it. It was said that Lear saw Ockanor in a war comedy and loved the way he showed emotion. Face, but STRS dropped another bombshell in 2025. She said it was Ockanor who had first saw the British version, and had brought it to learn in the hopes of being its star, which she said he never got. Thanks for being a part of the show's creation. That claim added one more change to a story that was already hard to follow. The story behind one of TV's most famous, Jean Stapleton, who played Edith, brought heart to a show that was full of. Lear found her on stage with sharp edges. Most of the women in Damn Yankees didn't get the part right, but Staples saw Edith isn't just Archie's welcome mat. She knew that Edith had a small. There were times when power lines went through. Archie Stapleton was born in 1923. Who lived in New York and worked on stage before the TV came calling. She won 2 Golden Globes and 3 Oscars for the part from the beginning. It was her first flight in 1968. OK Connor is playing a part that would become one of the most adored TV moms of all time. Rob Reiner. It wasn't like Michael Meathead Stivic had an easy way out either. He first tried out during the ABC test phase, but he was turned down. but then he got a job writing for a short-lived Andy Griffith show called Director. He played a teacher who was seeing a student and having an affair. It was a risky part, but it caught Lee's eye. Lear saw that Reiner had grown up. CBS gave him another chance when they took in charge of the project. Reiner and Stroth became the third group of artists cast, as 2 Emmys were given to Mike and Gloria Reiner for the part, but he had bigger plans all along. He later became a director and made movies like This Is Spine Tap When Harry Met the Princess Bride. Sally Strs, who played Gloria, had her own set of problems from the time she was born in 1947 and had just been fired from before on the Tim Conway Comedy Hour. She tried out for a 2025 show. She said she didn't like Lear much and that she once asked why she was chosen over Penny Marshall, who looked good on paper. It was more like Edith. Lear told her it was Akinor and she both had blue. He thought that would make people with big eyes and fat faces help the dad and daughter connect more. 2 Emmys were given to her for realistic STRS show, but by season 5, she found out she spent $40,000 trying to break her deal, but she lost, so she stayed for the part for 3 more seasons before she got it. Had been played by 2 other women. She was the last and third Gloria when All in the Family premiered in January 12, 1971. No one thought it would get rough. There were shows on TV all the time back then. They were clean, safe, and nice. Smiled jokes were mild and true to life. Issues stayed off screen, but Norman Lear, he thought America was ready for more. Was based on a British show named. He wanted to bring them together until death do us part. The same raw energy to CBS in the United States was scared because ABC had already said no, but Robert D. Wood, who is now head of CBS, took a brave chance, and everything changed. The first show aired on and at 9:30 p.m. Tuesday. Only 15% of people who watched CBS even paid extra people to answer the phones in case people who were upset called to complain, but what happened next was out of this world. They thought that within a year, 50 million Americans watched it every week. The play wasn't just funny. It was also a rough, honest mirror that showed the problems with getting along between generations. It was loud and clear that Bunker was set in his ways. Fought with Mike, his liberal son-in-law, on almost all of them, but neither was always right. That was the smartest. Showed that it wasn't easy to figure out. Real people fighting over real. It didn't shy away from hard topics. Things that the whole family talked about: racism, anti-Semitism, abortion, and more. The Vietnam War, rape, menopause, and divorce. This episode from World War I tells the story of the cousin of Edith who had been in having a lesbian friendship for many years. White racists were seen damaging. Thought they were in the Bunker's home. In one amazing scene, Archie told how his own father used to lock him up hidden away in a closet. It showed his bias. It didn't make him right, but it did make him feel better about it. That was the show's power. People didn't teach, but it made people think. At CBS didn't know what to do with it at first. They were so scared of making things worse that an alert was put up before each show. It let people know what the show was about. Make fun of bias to show it, but it was just tense behind the scenes. As strong as what happened on the screen. Lawrence Lear fought the CBS monitors all the time. He wasn't allowed to say, "Got 'em it," in the opening. At one point CBS tried to change the time of the show. That time Lear sued them. That's how bad it was. Even with all of this, the show became a giant from 1971 to in 1976. It was the most watched show in America, like no other show had ever done that. Off before it won 4 Emmys in a row. For the overall Best Comedy Show. It was nominated 74 times and won 22 of them. Carroll O'Connor, who played Archie, a lot of prizes. One of his biggest came in 1979 for the California show Here We Are. In the same year that the series, 42 million people watched the finish, and the story didn't end, it kept going. The show All in the Family ran for 9 years and 205 parts. It turned into Archie Bunker's Place, which was for many more years. The Bunkers took in a foster child. Mike and Gloria moved away with their child. Archie bought a bar. The show kept getting better. Also started 5 spin-offs. The Jeffersons, who actually stayed longer. The first 11 seasons were from the when it was over. Everyone in the family had constructed a TV world unlike anything before it, but maybe the most on Christmas Day, there was a powerful moment. The show was called The Draft, in 1976. Dodger, it had David Brewster, a young man who had run away to Canada. David wasn't trying to stay out of the Vietnam War. Being a bad guy, he was calm. Mike invited him because he was kind and honest to Christmas dinner without telling Archie, and Archie had also asked that friend Pinky Peterson, whose son had died during the war. The battle was very rough. Tried to explain why he picked Archie. Mike defended him, saying, "What? David had a lot of guts to do that." One of the worst events in the show's past, but there was a mistake at a very important time. Archie said, Do you want to talk about that stupid war more?" CBS was scared, so they pushed the line to be changed. It turned into that stinking damn war, and it was clear from the overdub that Lear was angry that the change took away the emotions power of the scene. But even with the changes, the show was a big hit. It pulled in 34.5 million people, was the most of those season. When the show will air, it couldn't have been better. Just a few weeks ago, Jimmy Carter won the presidential election. Was one of his campaign promise was to forgive everyone. Draft Dodgers, and it was only 27 days after the draft. Dodgers said he did it in January 21, 1977. Carter's first full day on the job, issued a declaration 4,483, suddenly giving a full pardon. Some people, like the made-up character David Brewster, could go home with about 50,000 real money. American people were living in exile at that. Just one TV show had shown the exact when the country turned the page on February 19, 1972. American TV changed everything. What took place in Season 2, Episode 21 of All of the Family? In an episode called First Look, Sammy's visit looked like it was set up. Played simple. Sammy Davis Jr. himself left his suitcase with Archie. He showed up at Archie's in Bunker's cab. "I went home to get it back, but what happened?" The next one shocked the country and made history of TV. Archie Bunker was already known for being the most openly racist in his TV role. He used words like they saw the world in bright colors and narrowly racist view. So when one of most loved black person in America, people who put on shows, came into Archie's house, people saw that something dangerous was. They didn't see what was coming. It was at the end that the idea for the show was written by Sammy Davis Jr. himself. He said on The Tonight his dream show in 1972 was to be on it. Author Bill Dana came to write all about his family coming up with a plot that would Sammy face to face with Archie. Norman Lear, who wrote it, was worried that it might seem like a trick, but the idea is good. Was too good to miss while filming. Sammy was scared at first, and he even asked for cue cards, but CEO John Rich said no one had to do anything under the same stuff as when the cameras rolled. Every line Sammy said was calm, sure of himself. He didn't flinch when Archie made the racist comments he always does. He met with sharp quips and dry wit. They beat them. The crowd loved it. Sammy later, "He fawned all over me in the show, but his bias still comes through," and it did. Archie tried to be polite, but he hid how he really felt. Getting worse, that stress reached when it reached the boiling point, it was over. The kiss wasn't sweet, planned, but it was strong. Right before going away, Sammy turned around and placed a kiss on Archie's face. The crowd erupted. They laughed for 38 seconds straight and cheered and clapped. It was one of the longest expressions ever seen on TV. Director John Rich said they had to stop laughing down because it went on for too long. He said it was like this: bang, he's kissing. We went inside, and Archie gave us that look of surprise, and then the crowd just went crazy. But this wasn't just it was funny, it was a strong message. A black America saw a black man kiss a white man on TV. In 1972 had never been seen before, and Archie Bunker was the face of racism. And it turned into a social bomb. Just a few years ago, the United States Supreme Court had finally thrown out laws putting a stop to mixed-race marriage. That was in 1967 with the Loving versus Virginia case decision. Before that, 16 states still had. There were laws that said black and white people to get married, so by the when Samantha kissed Archie on those old scars, were still raw. There had been mixed-race kisses on TV before. In 1968, Captain Kirk was on Star Trek. That moment of kissing Lieutenant Uhura got hate mail, mostly from Southern viewers, so imagine how angry people were when two guys, one black and one white, touching each other on national TV. It was just going to be another 16th of October is my birthday 1977. More than 40 million Americans watched to see what everyone in the family saw that night wasn't just a comic show. It was the culture earthquake that Gene Staples author Edith Bunker turned 50 years old. The episode started with her family laughing. Planned a surprise party for Edith. A man knocked on her door while she was waiting at home alone. He said he was a police inspector at the door. He said he wasn't there to protect her, but he was. Anyone who knew him knew how dangerous he was. FBI agent Lambert, but he was a killer. It got tense over time, and Edith tried to stay. She was relaxed and answered the phone. Tried everything to hold him up, then Archie walked in for a short time to get the man hid in the closet with the punch bowl. Edith in a whisper if she said one word he was going to kill them both. When the oven timer went off, he was told that the party cake was. He let her go, but she didn't just burn. Take the cake, she did it on her one shot. She hit him in the face with the hot coals. They ran at her after minutes with a hot pan. She passed out in Archie's during the surprise party. Arms, the crowd was shocked and laughed. Had turned into tears. A show had that saved his life. This wasn't a pick at random. Norman Lear is the shows the author wanted to show a promise. It wasn't just a crime to sexual assault that took place in alleys or only to girls, it could happen to anyone really, even someone like Edith. Someone like Edith. Lear got in touch with Gail Abernell is the head of the Rape It is a rehab center in Santa Monica. Asked her one thing: if we could talk to 40 million people about rape, what do you really think? She didn't just answer, she went to the room for writers. Spent time with them, rewrote scenes, and shaped the story. She checked to see if it was true. Sensational. Lear even took the idea from he gave Edith another show. Because he knew what would happen better, that the story didn't end after the part 2 of the show about cake aired the next week. It showed Edith struggling, crying, and hiding things she didn't want to report it. She felt bad about herself. She had doubts, but in the end she made a choice. She named the man she did, not to get back at him, but to stop him from making someone else suffer. Behind the scenes, CBS executives were worried about sponsors. They were going to pull out. Local stations in conservative places didn't want to talk about it. It was family time at 9 p.m. was going to be a comedy block, but Lear didn't give up. He pushed forward. CBS set up secret screenings for police specialists in medicine and therapy before when the episode ran. They wanted professionals to find out what people think and how they answer. How to help journals that refused to print what the show was really about how they just wrote that Edith had to deal with it. The audience knew about the situation and they watched all through that year. And The Family wasn't just the most popular show. It showed what the country was like. Not facing a tough truth. At the heart of this storm was caused by Carroll O'Connor, who played Archie Bunker, the bossy, loud old man, a schoolboy with old ideas. But O'Connor was the exact opposite of that, and he had faith in unions and people. He wasn't scared to stop everything. To show it in 1974, CBS had to deal with a strike. O'Connor didn't know that workers were picketing without thinking. He wouldn't cross the line. I've been a trade union was no longer being filmed. Man, all my life, he told the press. Won't break a strike. This wasn't a small one. He was the star of the most protest. He walked and watched a show in America.